Okay, guys, I am so excited to be here with my next guest. She single-handedly uncovered the biggest secret in RHOC history and took down the OG of the OC. You know that I'm talking about former Real Housewife of Orange County, Meghan King. Hey, Meghan.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm so
I
good.
sound I sound so cool in that introduction, so thank you.
I mean, you are a legend, Meghan. Don't sell yourself short. You, like I
Oh, well,
said, you took down Vicky. I mean, that is like unheard of. It took what, 12 seasons for it to finally happen?
that's funny. I didn't as much take down Vicky as I took down Brooks, who also went down with
Yeah,
Vicky.
he pulled her down with him, you
Yeah,
know. So
yeah,
you appeared on 3 seasons of RHOC. You were on from seasons
yes.
10 to 12.
Uh-huh.
And so you have decided now to go back and rewatch all of the episodes that you were on, and you're putting your commentary on YouTube, which is
Yes.
amazing and it's so hilarious. What
Thanks.
what inspired you to start rewatching?
My friends had mentioned it to me for a little bit, and I thought, you know what, why not? It will be fun. And it's been 7 years since my very first season, so I knew that it would be interesting to look back on it with this fresh perspective after having had three children. One of my kids has a disability, and then having gone through not just one but two divorces, one with my ex-husband Jim, who was on the show, and then another one recently. But anyway, I feel like it was a lifetime ago, so it's almost like for me watching a character on television.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of housewives say or claim that they didn't watch the show when they were on it. Did you watch the series while it was airing when you were a housewife?
Yeah, I did. That's the only time I ever watched the show, was when I was on it. I didn't watch it leading up to when I was on the show or afterwards. Although I have to admit, I started watching the show this season and I'm really into it.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, then we will definitely talk about some things about the current season because I definitely
Okay.
want to get your input. So obviously, watching it, watching the show 7 years ago must feel very different than watching it now.
Totally.
I have to imagine with all of these life changes, like you said, you feel like it's a character. Does that maybe help you disconnect a little bit, or is it still kind of like weird to watch that
No,
time back?
no, I don't think I'm disconnected, because it still ultimately was me, even though it was kind of like a different lifetime version of me. It still was me. So I watch it and I remember these experiences. It brings back all of these memories of what, I was thinking at the moment. But then at times I'm like, oh my gosh, Meg, what? Like, let it go, or like, shut your mouth, that's enough. Like, zip it up now. So that part has been, I think that's just kind of like a maturity thing. And
Yeah.
so I'm kind of able to watch the young version of me and nitpick at her just like everybody else did while I was airing.
Yeah, well, I have to assume it's kind of like, when us normal people watch, old home movies of ourselves,
Yes.
it's less binge watching and more cringe watching.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Less bingy, more cringy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like it's different than old movies because it's my life, right?
Yeah.
Like in an old movie, you're like singing in a school play or something,
Right.
that, or like singing happy birthday, or like somebody drops the cake. So whoops, something silly. But these are
Right.
like actual real, like full blown life memories.
Yeah. I mean, my mom definitely was not there with like a camcorder when I was, getting in screaming fights with my first boyfriend or whatever. Like that
Totally.
did not happen.
No, I would assume it probably didn't.
So with that said, what's it been like watching your old relationship on TV? I mean, obviously you and Jim went through a pretty nasty public divorce. I have to imagine that watching that all back is, again, cringy, but also eye-opening.
Yeah, it's been, I I think for me, I don't feel cringy by it because I'm not the one with the bad behavior in the
Right.
relationship. And so I feel bad for the woman that I'm watching on TV, because I see me being in complete and utter denial about my relationship with him and making excuses for him. And I've been blown away by my level of denial that is really good for me to now understand that I possess, because I'm still the same person. So I probably still have the ability to like basically force something that isn't there. And in this case, was my relationship with Jim. I think I was forcing something that there wasn't a whole lot of love reciprocated. And so, but yet like kind of made excuses that there was, and clearly there wasn't. So
Yeah.
that's been a really good lesson for me.
Good. It seems like, I mean, it doesn't seem like there were a lot of weird power dynamics at play. Watching you and Jim back, it definitely felt like, you know, he was in the dominant position. And I mean, I don't want to use the term like gaslighting, but you almost felt like you were a prisoner, or he was like blinding you to all of his toxicity. And knowing what we know now, watching it back, I almost kind of feel like maybe that's why you had your eyes so heavily set on the other ladies and their relationships and what was going on there, because, you know, what was happening with you was also not the best. And again, like you said, that wasn't your fault at all.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. I haven't thought about that. I think the majority of kind of like my extra time was because I just didn't have kids and I wasn't working, and I just had a lot of time on my hands. Like, it's kind of plain and simple. But that's interesting what you're saying, because essentially what I think what you're trying to get at is that I was deflecting or projecting, or like combination of those two, from my relationship onto others. And
yeah, a little bit, or maybe not even necessarily deflecting or projecting, but almost like it was a defense mechanism. Like, it was your way of, you know, shielding yourself from having to look at the truth that was happening in your own home, you know?
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, that makes sense, right? Like,
I'm no psychologist. This is all, I'm pulling it out of my ass, you know?
I mean, me either, but I've done enough therapy. I feel like I should be an honorary one at this point.
Right.
But I mean, I think that's just kind of what people do, right? Like, when something's going bad in their life, what do? They go like become a troll on the internet and point fingers at some stranger. And like, I just probably did that in like a little bit smaller circle, and I had the platform to do it. Like, It was encouraged.
Yeah. And you weren't wrong. And
it wasn't wrong.
We'll get into that for sure. So now, interestingly enough, before you even joined the show as an official cast member, you appeared on the show the previous season. You were at Heather Dubrow's Hoedown.
Right.
So what was it like being a guest at one of those parties and not being one of like the wives? I've always wondered, like, are you kind of aware of like the scenes being set up, or are you just at a party?
I'm just at a party. I'm not aware of the scenes being set up. I was just at a party, and I had a lot of confidence. I still do. And so, and I remember they were all at the bar getting a drink, and like the cameras are following them. I wasn't mic'd or anything. And I'm like, I want to get a drink. Like, this is reality television, right? Like, I'm allowed to go like into the scene because this is just supposed to be real. And that's truly what I was thinking. So I went in to get a drink because I didn't want to like wait for the scene to be over. And that's it. That's all I knew. Well, then like fast forward, and I watched the episode back, and there was like a little bit of back drama that happened, but I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. How interesting. So now you mention like reshoots during your recaps, and how sometimes they have to, you know, reshoot a conversation or an argument or things like that, just for production purposes. What is that like? I mean, what is it like having to kind of repeat a conversation or an argument?
I think I was in a unique position. I never had to do that.
Oh, okay.
Not an argument, a conversation. Yeah, sure. Just for soundbite purposes. But typically that was more along the lines of like, calling somebody, inviting them to a party. It wasn't,
Gotcha.
you know, like a full-blown emotional conversation. It was like sound bites.
Okay, that makes sense. Because a lot of times the wives are accused of being scripted. And I sometimes my mind immediately goes to like, well, maybe this is the third time they've had to have this conversation, you know?
No, I definitely think like the downloading gets a little monotonous and tedious, but like downloading about a party or what happened at a party or whatever. But I learned after three seasons of doing this that you just wait to have those downloads until the cameras are on and you're mic'd up and you're ready to go, you're hot. And not before. You're not going to text with your girlfriend about it like you normally would do when a party ends. Like if somebody like, I don't know, falls off the table drunk off their ass, you're going to be like, oh my God, text, I can't believe she did that.
Right.
But like you learn on the Housewives, you wait until the next, Tuesday when you're going to film again, and you download about it at that point.
That's interesting. And that brings me into my next point. Heather Dubrow talks about that a lot. On her podcast specifically, she'll mention, I'm not trying to have conversations with these ladies off screen while we're
Right.
shooting. You know, that's inauthentic. I need to wait to talk to them.
Yeah.
And this season in particular, at the beginning of the season, Shannon was accused of stirring the pot by bringing up a secret off camera to the other wives.
Yeah.
And Heather's point and a lot of the other wives' point was like, she did this on purpose. Why are you
Yeah.
going to mention it to your castmates off camera unless you want it to come up on camera? And I think
Right.
this is a really good like reference to that. You know, it's like these conversations should all be happening on camera, on screen. And when things start going on off screen, that's when it starts to feel a little murky. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think that Shannon, like in her heart of hearts, truly believes that she was trying to like not make it a thing.
Okay.
But I also think Shannon knows exactly how production works and exactly how reality shows work. She's been on for 1 trillion years now.
Yeah.
And so she was 100% stirring the pot.
Right.
100%. Now, whether she consciously understood that or not remains unknown, right? But like, she did stir the pot, and like she knows she is not a dumb person at
Right.
all. And I like Shannon a lot, but like she knows the game. Yeah. So I was like, when I watched that, I was like, are you kidding me, Shannon?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
Now, obviously, Tamara and Shannon were longtime besties, and they have since had a bit of a falling out.
Yeah.
To put it lightly, they hate each other.
Yeah.
I mean, what's that about? Because for me,
No.
you know, Tamara really defended Shannon for years and years and years. And she really put herself out on the line for Shannon, and she defended Shannon's integrity. You know, many times she would say, I think Shannon has a great heart. I don't think she's, you know, a malicious person. And now Tamara seems to really be changing her tune. Do you think that Tamara, you know, saw the light, or do you think that, you know, they just got into a fight and now she's just kind of trying to low blow?
I mean, Tamara's emotional, so like you have to take that into consideration. And this is an emotional event, like losing a friend, that's very real. But also like I do know that a lot of times when people leave the show, you just don't talk to them as much. And that feels very personal, and it is personal. But the reality is you're on it. These are not only friends, they're coworkers. And so just like I might even not even like my coworkers, and I'm going to have to communicate with them all day long, every day. But then when you add in that they are your friends too, it's going to be nonstop communication. So when you stop becoming coworkers, somebody gets fired from the show, somebody quits, you're gonna lose that coworker communication, and the communication is therefore going to naturally drop off significantly. And that feels personal, but it's really probably not. But at the same time, I definitely felt that huge drop off of communication with Shannon when I left the show, and I did not feel that from Tamara at all.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I definitely get that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, some of the wives say that they do that, you know, again, for like a defense mechanism, because it's too hard to, you know, stay connected with the women that they've disconnected with or are no longer coworkers with.
I think that's bullshit. I think like, you know, if you're real friends, you're going to make it happen. Like, yeah, do we have friends who we don't talk to for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and then you pick right up where you left off? Absolutely. Like that's what friends do. But I mean, you still make an effort every now and then, you know?
Right. Would you call Shannon a friend?
I would call her an acquaintance. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say friend.
Okay.
But acquaintance, I mean, that sounds harsh to say. I wouldn't say friend. Like we are totally cool. She checks in with me. I check in with her. Like we're good.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's totally fair. I mean, the other thing too is, you know, not that age is everything, but you also have a very large age gap between a lot of women. And so just kind of naturally that doesn't, you know, that doesn't mean that you guys are just going to be like besties. You know what I mean?
Well, Shannon always struggled with the age gap too.
Right.
That was a thing for her. Tamara never gave a shit about the age gap.
Yeah.
Heather never cared about the age gap. I mean, yeah, like your life is in different places. And like Heather, for instance, is more of a mentor, like a big sister role for me, where I feel like Tamara, yeah, she's definitely like kind of more of the big sister, but she has a younger soul. So she's kind of like feels more of a peer, even though she's, you know, the same age as Heather or even older, I think.
Yeah, no, Tamara definitely gives off like 20 something vibes for sure.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you know John Jansen? Have you met him?
Who's that?
That's Shannon's current boyfriend.
Oh yeah. Okay. No, I haven't met him. No.
Okay. I mean, you're like a super sleuth. What vibes do you get from him just seeing him on the show?
He seems kind of vanilla to me.
Okay. Well, I mean, do you think Shannon is like, is all spicy like Rocky Road or something?
No, I'm like, what is their like? I wonder what their sex life is like. But
Very vanilla. You nailed it.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he just looks vanilla, like the way he dresses and stuff. But it's just Shannon. I mean, she's spiced it up since she's been on the show. But when I first met her, she was just like very prim and proper, and that's how she grew up.
Yeah, very, very buttoned up. She's definitely, let her hair down or, put it up in a high pony or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, she's definitely a little bit more conservative, that's for sure. But I do think that anyone is better than David Beador, right?
Yeah, he seems like a super creep to me.
Yeah. Now, watching you watch their scenes during your recaps, yeah. I mean, that's when I coined the phrase "cringe watching" because I saw your face.
I love that. I'm gonna borrow that.
No, you should. It's we can trademark it. It's fine.
Okay.
But honestly, watching it back and watching your reaction to it, I mean, that's how we all felt the entire 4 or 5 seasons that they were together on the show. I mean, it was unbearable. Yeah. And I think a lot of the fans did what you wished you could do and just like fast forwarded through their stuff.
Right. I know. It was so hard. I was sitting right here where I'm sitting right now, and I'm in a swivel chair at my desk. And I was like turning around in my swivel chair, as you can probably hear my voice fade away, just so I can not watch it.
Right.
Just to get away in whatever way I can.
Anything to just like remove yourself, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. I want to talk about the casting process.
Okay.
So we'll get into when you were originally cast, but you actually revealed on Tamara's podcast last week that you went through the casting process recently for season 14 or 15.
Whatever this, I think they're in 16 now, aren't they?
Okay. So last season, for season 15, you went through the casting process.
Well, no, for the season that's airing now, I went through that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
The one where they brought back Heather. That's
got it.
Season 16, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Did they reach out to you or did you reach out to them?
I reached out to them.
Okay.
I reached out to them. I wanted to go. I missed being in front of the camera. I missed Orange County. I was like ready to move back to Orange County. And I'm in LA a lot. I do a lot of work on Instagram and social media. And I used to have a podcast based out of LA. So I was like, all right, well, this will be great. Like I'll be out there and able to, be in LA all the time. And then like my friends are in Orange County and like my doctors, and I have this whole life. It'll be great.
Yeah.
And so I went through so I called up whoever I called up. I think it was somebody at Evolution, the production company. And they're like, go through the casting process again. So I got dolled up. I sat in front of the Zoom, just like you and I are doing now. Yeah. And I did the whole full-blown casting process.
Wow. And so just nothing came from that?
No, they're like, all right, wait and see. And then I didn't get it. And I got a phone call from Evolution from Alex Baskin, who I considered to be a friend. And he calls me, he's like, hey, I just want to let you know you didn't get it. And he told me I was the first phone call that he made, like even out of, the acceptance people, like people who did get it. And he's like, just want to give you a heads up. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. Like, it's not cool because I wanted to tell him that, no, I just don't want to do it. It would have been really hard for me to like move everything. And with a single mom of 3 kids, it would have been difficult to make time for that, but I would have done it. But like, I didn't like to hear that, but I'm like, why not? Like, what is going on? And he's like, you'll see soon enough. And then I saw that they brought Heather back, and I'm like, okay. So like they brought one, old person back.
Got it. Yeah.
Not old, like age.
Right.
On the show. Right.
Yeah.
Former.
I think that makes sense that they kind of wanted to capitalize on the hype of, one figure being brought back. And if you bring back multiple, then you don't kind of have that like moment, I guess.
I mean, they didn't say that to me. They just said I didn't get it.
Right.
Maybe that's
2 and 2 together.
No, right.
I mean, that makes sense, but I don't know. For me, especially seeing like the success of Ultimate Girls Trip and kind of, there's always been talk about how like, the fans want an all-stars, and there's just so many possibilities. And I feel like bringing back the all-stars from a specific city is just it's such a great way to revive a franchise. And Heather is a little piece of that. You know, I love Heather. She's one of my favorites. And I think that she is helping get the show back to where it needs to be. But I think that if it had been like you, Heather, and Tamra, and they'd got like a hot shot of you guys like strutting down the beach or something, like the impact that would have had would have been epic.
Right.
And I think that that's where they need to go. You know, I don't think that every city needs to bring back all of like the heavy hitters. But OC does for sure.
I think it definitely, that would be super helpful. And like for instance, like Tamara, Heather, and I have such great chemistry. Like we're organically real friends.
Yeah.
And so that would, but think about like back office stuff. Would they be able to afford us?
I mean, probably not. No.
I don't know. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't know how much money these shows generate.
Right.
It just, so like, I know that we don't get paid as much on these shows as we would if we were in a scripted series, but like, we're not, I don't know how it works.
And I don't really even get that because, you know, in my opinion, you guys are doing way more than an actor on a scripted series is.
So they would probably be able to afford us.
Yeah, maybe.
And I wouldn't be as expensive as them because it, like, you get paid based on your tenure. And so it would only have been my 4th year. But Tamara and Heather, you know, they've been on a bit, and so has Shannon. So she's probably has a high salary right now too. Yeah.
Well, you should have gotten like a huge salary bump after your first season. I mean, that talk about a freshman season. Honestly, that was like, you know, 4 seasons in one. But I do want to touch on, you mentioned that, you know, you and Tamara and Heather, you do have great chemistry and you do have an organic friendship. And that kind of seems to be what's missing on Orange County right now. With the exception of maybe Gina and Emily, who do have a friendship. Everyone else seems a little disjointed. You know, it's interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I can't imagine them all hanging out, you know?
Totally. And also, it's the Nicole and Noella. They were supposedly good friends.
Yes.
I didn't feel any chemistry between them at all. Did you?
No. And so apparently stuff started going down. They got cast together and then stuff started going down like before cameras went up. So they were friends. And I think that, you know, the word on the street is that they both just started like chattering a lot and like making plans for the show. And then it kind of blew up in their faces. Like they both were revealing secrets and it got them in trouble with each other. And so now, I mean, are you completely caught up with OC? I think we're on like episode 7 or 8.
No.
So when they go to Mexico, which is where they are now.
Right.
Yeah. Nicole says like, if Noelle is going, I'm not going. And then Nicole doesn't go. And now she's off the show. So we don't really know what happened.
She got kicked off the show?
I think she walked away from the show and no one knows why. So
she seemed like she was hiding things. I thought.
Okay, this is where Meghan King comes in. This is why we need you back in Orange County. Bust out the magnifying glass and looking for clues, because you would figure this out. Like you truly would figure it out. You know, the whole lawsuit that comes up in the first couple episodes, like you would have had that all uncovered and you would have brought receipts and you would have been on the phone with like the clerk at the courthouse. Like you would have had all of it.
I would. I'm into that. Yeah. I like figuring it out. I don't know. It's just who I am. I want the truth and always the truth. And I'm nice. I'm not like malicious about it, but like, don't be fucking shady.
Right. Exactly. Because you will figure it out if you are.
I don't know. Nicole just seemed like, I mean, I'm sure she's a sweet person and everything. And like, it takes a special individual to put their life out there on TV like that. It's not the easiest thing to do and it makes you very vulnerable, and you have to be. But if that's what you decide to do, you got to go for it and just do it. And I didn't feel that vibe from her.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. What did you think about how the Dubrows handled the whole lawsuit thing? You know, it kind of was a heated thing for like 5 minutes, and then they came back and it was all just very like mellow. And that has raised some red flags with the fans. People are confused about the response. What do you think?
I think that was like a produced response. I think like the initial reaction was like, from Heather was an emotional one where she's like, okay, why are you trying to like paint my husband out to be this like bad surgeon? And then Terry was probably like, Heather, it's fine. And by you freaking out like this, you're going to freak out all the fans. Like, let's just like relax. It's not that big of a deal. And she's probably like, okay, you're right. Like, this is, we got to like, what is it called? What is the term that you say when you like damage control? Damage control. And so that's what I felt like it was, just damage control. And it felt very condescending the way that they met with Nicole. And they're like, it's okay. This was years ago, but like, why would you bring, like, what? It's fine. It was dropped. It was not a big deal. These things happen. It just felt like that felt, I would have been like, okay, shut the fuck up. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Was Nicole, but
the
Nicole
like maniacal
just, like,
laughter.
in La La Land.
Right.
And she's just like taking it because I think she just like loves to be nurtured. And it felt like kind of like a parental, like a parent scolding a child.
Gotcha.
What are the fans saying?
It's all over the place, really. Some people kind of understand it and they're like, yeah, it was 20 years ago. It doesn't really matter. The bigger issue is, why did Shannon bring it up? And then a lot of people are like, why, this is weird. Why is Heather not questioning Nicole and why she didn't bring it up? And then there's a third group who's like, it's weird that Heather isn't upset about this. We think she paid Nicole off. So there's like
I don't think there's anything paid off, but I do think it's weird that Heather didn't make a bigger deal out of it. I feel like Heather was just ultimately the most pissed at Shannon because of the bad blood between them. But like, and I think it's true, like doctors get sued, whatever. But like Nicole doesn't seem like the brightest bulb. Right. And so she's probably, so Heather's probably like, whatever, like she's not a threat to me, whereas Shannon probably is.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to jump back really quick. We were talking about casting. I want to talk about how you were cast originally when you joined in season 10. Now, obviously, you knew Heather, you were at the hoedown, and you were introduced as Heather's friend. Is that legit? Like, was Heather instrumental in having you cast, or do they kind of just use that as a lead-in?
I don't know. I don't know if Heather, I think maybe the casting said to Heather, do you know Meghan or something? But yeah, no, I knew Heather. I did. We weren't super close or anything, but we had definitely hung out. And so that part was real. But I don't know. We should call her and ask her. I'm not sure how. I don't know if she was contacted.
Now, I remember that there were rumblings that Jim's second wife, Allison, was in the running to join the show a season or two before you, and then when they separated, that fell through. Do you think that maybe led them to you? I mean, that seems like a big coincidence otherwise.
Probably. I mean, I don't think it probably hurt. Yeah, no, I think Allison, and I don't know this for a fact either, but Heather told me this, that Allison was like totally like gonna be a cast member, like full blown, ready to go, and backed out at the last minute, and like production was kind of scrambling, like, what do we do now? And like kind of left them in a weird spot. And so yeah, I think they probably knew of me through that. And Jim has like an interesting story, and then like, with me as his new wife, like that's interesting. So yeah,
it makes sense. It's like an easy segue.
Yeah.
There was also another new housewife filming with you guys that first season you were on, Katie. Do you remember her?
Oh my gosh, yeah, Katie Hamilton.
What happened to her?
Well, she, I don't know, apparently she disappeared. So like her marriage fell apart during filming. Oh, okay. And I think that's why she backed out. And then like there might have been something with drinking involved, because her now ex-husband, had substance abuse issues, very public ones, by the way. And
he was an athlete also, right?
Yeah, he was a baseball player.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure if like there was like something else with substance abuse or whatever, but I think that fell apart because Katie was protecting her family.
That makes sense. I mean, we were watching, in real time how Noella's relationship and home life is falling apart, and it's pretty tragic to watch. So I don't begrudge someone from wanting to walk away from the show, especially if a new housewife,
I feel like, yeah, I agree. But I feel like a lot of like a common theme with new housewives or housewives in general is they have a rocky marriage. And so their husband's like, okay, you don't have anything to do. Like you're a stay-at-home mom. Like, here, let me give you a job.
Mm-hmm.
Like your new job is to be a reality star. And then I can leave you and feel good about myself.
Right, exactly. I think a lot of housewives have joined the show as like a last ditch effort to save their relationship, which seems like a weird choice to me. Historically, it hasn't really saved a lot of relationships.
I don't think it's saving the relationship. I think it's like something deep down where they're like, I need something to sustain me after like my, you know, my breadwinner is gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then also these husbands can't handle it because all of a sudden they've been the star of their marriage, of their family, the whole time they've been together. And all of a sudden their stay-at-home wife or whoever, their spouse is the star, and
Right.
they're a supporting cast member. Like, that is a huge ego blow for a lot of men, and they can't handle that. I mean, I'm one of those cases.
You don't say.
I know. Go figure.
Now, when Kelly Dodd joined the show, she was introduced as your friend. Was
Yes.
that a legitimate like introduction?
So like we knew each other through mutual friends and stuff. I totally forgot she was my friend. Sorry about that, everybody.
I was literally going to ask. I have a note here that says, "Do you feel personally responsible for inflicting Kelly Dodd onto the fans?"
I think you should do it. I remember like one of the production team calls me and they're like, okay, are you friends with Kelly? Like, we kind of want her on the show, but like, we don't know if she'd be a good fit. And, you're the connection. I'm like, let me take her to lunch. Let's chit chat. So Kelly and I like hung out, and I'm like, you have to hire her. But we had met each other before, but that was kind of like the first time we really got to know each other. And I'm like, she's fun. And she is fun. That like, there is no denying that Kelly Dodd is fun, and she's funny.
Yeah.
She's just off her rocker.
100%. There's like not even a rocker in the room anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. You also mentioned when you were doing your recap that when you first joined the show, you were anticipating that you and Vicky were going to get along great, and you and Tamara were not going to get along. And obviously the opposite of that happened. What made you think those things? Like, why did you think you and Vicky were going to connect?
Okay. So I wasn't an avid watcher of the show, but I would flip the channel surf, and if it was on, I'd stop and watch it. And Vicky and Tamara are both heavy hitters on that show. So I kind of knew like their characters. Right. And Vicky seemed like more grounded and stable, and Tamara just seemed like a loose cannon. And so I'm like, okay, I feel like overall I'm kind of like a stable person who I don't like seek drama or conflicts, and Tamara seemed like she did. And I don't know what show I was watching, but I guess I thought Vicky seemed like she was just more of the voice of reason. Like, I don't know. And I couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I call them bobblehead moments. It's when, Vicky and Tamara, they start shaking, screaming, and they get that bobblehead. But you have never had one of those, on your 3 seasons.
I kind of did when Peggy came at me in Iceland about my daughter.
Yes. But that was more tears than anything. I mean, it wasn't like, you weren't like screaming in anyone's face a la Vicky, so that's why it's just funny that you thought Vicky was like this calm voice of reason. And then a couple seasons later, I think Kelly Dodd even called her like the Buddha of Orange County or something like that. And it's like, Vicky. Kelly Dodd said that about Vicky. And it's like, okay, clearly you're off your rocker. You're nuts.
Yeah. Like, she's not a Buddha.
No.
I think Kelly was trying to say like, she's like the God, like the president, the mayor.
That would make
she's
sense.
The mayor.
Okay.
But
yeah.
Kelly doesn't know that like Buddha means peacefulness and Zen.
Right.
She just thinks that means like some leader.
Yeah. Kelly doesn't know a lot of things. Speaking of Kelly, I want to talk about the sushi party, the infamous sushi party when she screams at Shannon, she screams at Tamara, Heather gets up and, storms out.
Quits.
Yeah, so exactly. That's what I want to talk about. This was an infamous scene, and it was always talked about, what happened behind the scenes when Heather went off. So I want to know, spill all the tea. I want to know everything.
Okay, so what did Kelly do? I
So
forget.
she
She was
called
losing her
she
freaking
called
mind.
Shannon the C word, and then she
Oh yeah.
told Tamara that she was a dumb fuck, and everyone, and like the conversation was really calm before that too, you know?
Kelly went in guns a-blazing on that night.
Yeah.
And she was just lost her mind. And here we are in this nice restaurant, and Kelly is losing her mind. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And that's when Heather was just like, I'm done. I'm not dealing with this trash. And she like tears off her mic and like walks out of the room. And I'm like, I was getting my IVF the next day.
I
Like,
remember.
the
Yeah,
next day.
your mom was at the party with you.
She was at that
Yes.
party?
Yes, your mom was sitting right next to you.
I think it was a friend. No, it was a friend. Was it my
Uh,
mom? I
I,
think it was my friend Allison. It was my friend Allison.
I'm kind of an expert at this stuff. I'm pretty
Okay,
sure it was your mom.
my mom was there when I did the transfer.
Oh no, your mom was at the roller skating party.
She was at the roller skating
That's
party.
okay. Yeah. Well, your mom saw some bobblehead moments. That, you know,
She
that's
did.
important.
But that's really all I remember from the sushi party. Things just really fell apart quickly.
Yeah. So when Heather stormed off and went and talked to production, you know, Kelly claims that Heather tried to get her fired. A lot of people think
Heather definitely tried to get Kelly fired for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, interesting. And a lot of people think that that's the moment that she kind of solidified her own fate, because that was her last season, you know, until she was brought back.
Probably like when people you know, don't get along, how are you going to film together? Right. It makes things really difficult. And I don't blame Heather. Kelly really got like really mean and nasty. And Heather didn't need that. And so she's like, I don't want to be a part of it. In my opinion, I just was like, it's not that deep. Right. But after I quit, I always said I would never go back on if Kelly was on.
Interesting. I think a lot of people
not alone in that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would say that. And Heather always argued that, you know, the reason why she was so upset and offended by Kelly is because it brought the show down and it lowered the tone of the show. And, you know, seeing how the show has progressed over the last several seasons, it's hard to argue that, you know?
Yeah, I agree with Heather there. And it was just like these low blows, and there was just not like a whole from Kelly, and there wasn't a whole lot of like remorse or empathy or compassion. And like, I don't know how you have a legitimate human experience with someone when you're missing those three incredibly important qualities in an individual. Right. So I like Kelly if we're like out and like having fun or something, but I don't like Kelly when we're talking about deep life issues, because that's when she really like can cut you.
Yeah. And she has some questionable opinions on deep life issues.
Yeah, I know. And she's just tone deaf a lot of times. And yeah. I don't think she means it from like a place of trying to actually hurt anyone. But the point is that it hurts people. Right. And you can't do that. You can't do those things. Right. So, by the way, fun fact, Kelly and I share the same birthday.
Oh, wow. Interesting. And it's interesting because, you know, I people that I share my birthday with, or even my astrological sign with, I'm very similar to them. But you and Kelly seem like polar opposites to me.
I know.
Interesting.
It is.
Yeah. You mentioned, what did you say? I don't even remember. Let's move on. Okay. I want to ask, you mentioned, you know, how Kelly's really tone deaf, and that made me think of Lydia McLaughlin. I think a lot of people thought when you and Lydia were on the show together that you guys were going to get along just because of your age. And that did not happen. What do you think happened there?
I think I really liked Lydia. I just think I think Lydia acts like she's this like open-minded lover, but like ultimately she's ruled by like her Christian confines, or, you know, like that box that she's put herself inside of. Right. And I think she's like probably, and this is like a deep synopsis and it's just a total theory, but
hey, let's go there.
Yeah, we're going there. I think she is so like internally conflicted between like who she really is, which is like this free spirit like her mother, and who she wants to be, which is like this Christian who does things by the book. And I think like that inner conflict comes out outwardly with like, she can be like hypocritical in how she deals with situations or relationships. And that's just like not going to foster like a close relationship. And I think the audience felt that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you had like the perfect line to her on the show, which was that like, you shouldn't need the Bible
The
to tell
Bible.
you if you're a good person. You just like do the right thing, you know?
Yeah, because she was talking about the drag bingo night, and
Yeah.
she was like, I wasn't sure, if drag was okay, like
Right.
how I feel about that, like is it godly or something?
Right.
And I'm like, well, why do you? Or she said something about it being in the Bible or something, or not.
Yeah,
being
yeah.
in
She
the
was like,
Bible.
the Bible doesn't mention drag queen, so I don't know what to think about it.
Yeah, and it's like, wait, well, just like go with your heart. Like what? Like go with being a good person. What does that tell you?
Right. Well, also, let's be real. There are a lot of things that the Bible says that are like highly questionable. So
Yeah, no shit.
yeah,
Like you're not supposed to have a tattoo, like
right,
weird stuff.
right.
And also at the same time, I'm like, whatever. The real reason was that you felt uncomfortable dressing up as a boy because you looked like an actual fucking boy.
Well,
and like that made you
image
uncomfortable.
the image of her as Charlie Chaplin will haunt her until the day she dies. It's going to be
Forever.
it's going to be engraved on her tombstone. It is so funny. And
It's so spot on.
It's so funny. And I think the fact that it's like from a moment and a scene where she was like so highly uncomfortable makes it even better, that the fact that it just lives on forever.
Like, I swear, it's like always moments when we're dressed up looking ridiculous when the biggest fights go down.
Yeah, that's what I think of too. That bobblehead moment of Vicky that I'm thinking of. It's when they were playing like 80s bunco, and she has this ridiculous 80s hair, and it's crazy.
She looked like she put her finger in a socket.
Exactly.
She was electrocuted. Like she looked like Elvira.
It was hilarious.
She was acting like Elvira.
Exactly. It was so funny. So, I mean, obviously, several of your former castmates have exhibited some toxic behavior. I want to play a little game called Toxic or Misunderstood. I'm just gonna name some of your past coworkers, and you tell me if you think that they are toxic or just misunderstood. Okay? All right. Kelly Dodd.
Toxic.
Okay. Vicky Gumbelson.
Toxic. But hold on. They're also like, Kelly is also misunderstood. I have to say that about Kelly. Like,
okay. But she's also toxic.
But she's toxic and misunderstood. And she's misunderstood by herself.
Okay. That's very fair. Yeah. Okay. Lydia.
Misunderstood.
Okay. Peggy Salahian.
I think highly misunderstood.
Yeah. I mean, no one understood what she was saying, like, literally.
How do you be how are you toxic when no one even literally understands you?
Shannon Bador.
Misunderstood. You know what? The thing here, all of these people have like issues. We all have like issues that we're working through, and we're trying to self-actuate in front of a camera. Like, right. So we're all toxic and we're all misunderstood.
Okay. Last one.
Okay.
Jim Edmonds.
Fucking toxic.
I knew that one.
Easy, hands down. That's a home run, baby.
Oh my gosh.
Grand slam. Run those bases.
All right. So as I mentioned, you uncovered the biggest scandal, literally the biggest scandal in RHOC history. There has not been a storyline like it since. Okay. So at what point after meeting Vicky and Brooks did you start realizing that like this was all hokey? I think was the word you used.
The night I met them.
Wow. So what was it?
Okay. I said to Brooks, what did I say to him? Oh no, I said something to Vicky like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear your boyfriend's going through, a cancer diagnosis. I also have a cancer diagnosis with someone in my life who I love. Jim's ex-wife is struggling with cancer. And Vicky's reaction was so defensive and so dismissive of me, which is why I think Vicky knew the whole time that Brooks was faking, because that very first night at her fiesta party, I was like, they didn't air that. I should have talked about it on my recap, but I was like, wait a minute, something doesn't fit here. And I remember like turning to Jim and being like, that was weird. Like when you have a commonality of trauma like that, normally that people like that band together.
Oh yeah.
And like it was the opposite.
People in recovery or the families of people who are, suffering from illnesses, like they rally together like a huge community.
Yeah. And it not only did that not happen, it was the complete and utter opposite. It was pushing me away, acting defensive toward me, almost like I was an annoyance to her.
Yeah. And that's when, you know, like something's up. They don't want eyes on them.
Right.
And again, it's something where, not that people who are sick want attention, but you want eyes because you want people to help. You want people to be like looking for a cure. You want people to be giving you, you know, recommendations and references for doctors like Shannon did. I mean, it's not something that you like keep a secret from those you love or your close friends, you know?
No, especially when you're in a reality show talking about it already.
Yeah.
It's not like a secret.
Right.
And you're like, it's actually quite to the contrary. It's your whole entire storyline.
Yeah. And now your storyline is going to be about like being defensive and mad about it rather than having like a sympathetic edit, you know?
Right. I know. It was so
Very
odd.
weird. Was there ever a point at all during that season where you really thought like, okay, the truth is never going to come out and like I might end up looking like an asshole here?
100%. And Jim was terrified of that because
Really?
Jim cares a ton about his reputation. And he made me promise him that I was going to stop looking into it. And I was like, screw you. And I'll do what I want. And so I didn't stop looking into it. But I mean, ultimately I talked with E! News, who did an investigative report on Brooks, and they had like media access to sources that I didn't have access to. And so I got on the phone with E! News and Shannon too, and we were like, okay, this is what we have, the information we have, this is how we think he's going to respond, this is how we think you should respond to like his counter. And so E! News ultimately like discovered that he was faking cancer, and that was
Right.
that was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah. Well, and I remember that as it tends to happen, you know, there was talk in the media and in the press about all of this before the season even aired. So I think the fans knew as the season was airing, we already knew that you were right. And I think
Right.
that saved your ass a lot too, because had the truth never come out, you know, there would have been people who would have taken Vicky and Brooks's side and would have been mad at you, but we all knew
Right.
the truth. We all knew the truth. So we were just waiting for it to
Right.
happen.
I know, and thank God it did. I mean, I really trust my intuition, and once again, I was right. So I'm just gonna keep going with that. But you know who has a really good intuition as well is Tamra, and she knows Vicky extremely well. And so, like when I had her basically validate my doubts, that was like a huge driver for me to continue going forward with figuring out my Nancy Drew-ness.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so speaking of your Nancy Drew-ness, how familiar are you with some of the other cities right now and like the scandals going on? Like, are you familiar with the Jen
Like
Shaw
medium.
of it all and the Erica Jane of it all?
Medium.
Okay. So as just like an outsider, as a viewer, let's put on our Nancy Drew hat and what do you think? Do you think that Erica Jane was completely oblivious to all of the criminal activity her husband was doing, or do you think that she knowingly took stolen funds for her like pop star career?
I think she's probably oblivious. What do people think?
I think people think she's too smart to have been oblivious. She's said on the show in previous seasons, like, yeah, me and Tom, we're partners and I know everything that's going on at his. So I think that's kind of shooting her in the foot now. Yeah, I think you can't claim to be like really, really smart and shrewd and then play dumb later, you know?
But what he did was so wrong.
Awful.
It's terrible. So like, I just have to believe that she has enough of a heart to not steal money from poor slighted individuals. Like,
yeah. Have you seen her like social media presence, you know, in the past year since any of that?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Do you think that she seems like she cares about the victims?
She seems like she's curating an image that like wants to suggest that she is completely removed from her husband.
Okay, that makes sense. And I think that that's definitely one approach. It's not a very sympathetic approach. I think people want her to humble herself a little bit.
I mean, she doesn't seem like a very sympathetic person to me.
Yeah, I think that's
Does
fair.
she to you?
No, no. I mean, she has a song called "It's Expensive to Be Me." So I don't know. There's like
Yeah,
no.
I think that's like her shtick, like to be. So I don't know. I mean, God, but she does seem like she has a heart, and she doesn't seem like she would be cool with that. I
Okay.
don't know. Maybe he lied to her and she turned the other,
Okay.
turned away, or who knows.
So we are giving Erica Jane the benefit of the doubt.
I think so.
Okay, fair. What about Jen Shaw? Now, are you following Jen
Yeah.
Shaw's case? What do you
I
think?
mean, okay, yeah, okay. The thing, I'm like actually a little bit more sympathetic toward Jen Shaw's case. I think what she did is incredibly wrong. And like I don't condone that at all, that her bad behavior. And I think it's bullshit that she didn't take full responsibility. I think it's weird that her apology was like she was sitting next to a black dude. Like,
Oh no,
uh,
no, that's Jenny Wynn.
oh, that's genuine. Okay.
Yeah. But wait, let's
But
talk about that. Yeah,
okay.
Jenny Wynn. Let's talk that.
Yeah, I don't, but like the thing about, I mean, she was definitely got hit with cancel culture. And so like I'm more sympathetic to her, even though I don't condone her behavior. But like in Utah, like that's what like they live in a bubble. People in Utah, it's not a normal, like I've spent a lot of time in Park City, and it's not like a normal kind of worldly area.
Right.
Okay, so Jen Shaw, that's the
So she's the
pyramid scheme.
yes, yes. So she's the one where supposedly she was selling like illegally selling data to companies that were like scamming old people.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she totally knew.
Yeah, she did it.
She totally
I think so too.
you do.
This is, I hope this doesn't get me in trouble. I don't dislike her. There's
I
something,
don't yeah.
yeah, there's something about her on the show that's like likable to me. So
I
obviously
mean, I
I
think
don't
you have
like
to
what
have
she
like
did.
a certain level of love for yourself. Some might call it narcissism, but like I, to be able to like perform a scam of that magnitude while also like convincing yourself that it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it might be sociopathic. Also like people who do have personality traits like some kind of a sociopath or narcissist or whatever, they're freaking interesting to watch
Yeah.
because they're not like real people who we connect with, because we would isolate them out of our lives.
Right.
And so it's interesting to watch these individuals on television because like it gives us insight into this personality that we would never allow into our lives.
Yeah. And I think that's what's interesting, speaking of Jenny and cancel culture and all that, it's like, where does the line get drawn between, okay, this is unacceptable to have on TV versus, yeah, this person's shitty, but like, this is a reality show. And since when has reality TV been about like the perfect person,
And
Because
also, yeah, and also like I might get in trouble for saying this, but like, okay, come on, Bravo, like we know what you're doing when you add an Asian chick to the cast after all the shit that's going down with being diverse, and then like, oh, the Asian chick screws up like with some other kind of racial thing. Like, I mean, we're all kind of like benefiting off the same thing,
yeah.
and
Yep.
screwing up because of the same thing. It's like cancel culture, but like I don't know. It all is all like connected.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, if historically, as someone who's watched these shows since they started over a decade ago, like the Housewives, there used to be stuff like racist stuff coming out all the time, homophobic stuff. I mean, that is
Homophobic for
right. I
sure.
mean,
Yeah.
we saw that a lot on Orange County.
Yeah.
And so that stuff happens, and no, that's not to say that it's okay. But at a certain point, yeah, Bravo had to start taking like a hard stand. And like you said, it's clear what they're doing. It's questionable because like there doesn't seem to be like strict rhyme or reason when it comes to what's accepted and what's punished. I mean, look at,
Yeah.
we had this season of Real Housewives of New York, we had a lot of racist allegations, and rather than fire anyone, they just canceled the reunion. And so no one had to talk about it. So like, it's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. And like, I think it's interesting for reality shows because Orange County is very homogenous and very white, very
Mhm.
conservative. And so the women who've been representing Orange County on the show are very homogenous. Therefore, like that's what you get, conservative, like white people. And but it's like now it's on national television and we're promoting this image and this way of thinking and talking just because of like inherently what they are. Like they're just being themselves and they're
Right.
just being a representation of their city, but like is it ethically okay to promote that? And
Right.
so like it's just this bigger question within like the networks, which make and I like I agree with the network for diversifying casts all over the cities of the housewives. I think it was definitely much needed, and diversity makes everything more interesting anyways.
Totally.
But it's also like, well, why did it take so long to do this? Well, did it take so long to do this because you're just representing the town? And then if so, like, is that ethically okay?
Right.
There's a
Exactly.
lot of questions here.
Yeah, there's so many
You
layers.
could go down a wormhole.
Exactly. And to your point, it's not even necessarily just about like representing a specific town. These shows are supposed to represent like a specific bubble within that
Yeah.
town. So even if you do diversify by race, they're still all within the same bubble and they all still probably think the same way, like you said,
That's
about
true.
Salt
Right.
Lake City. You know,
Yeah.
it's quite literally a little bubble. And if we burst that bubble, that's not the show anymore. That's a different
No.
show.
And it's
So,
not organic
yeah.
chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I know we got to wrap up soon, but I don't want to end on a super heavy note. So,
Okay.
because you are infamously Little Miss 30-year-old, you are the
Yes.
millennial that we all could relate to on The Real Housewives. I want to just play a really quick game of millennial this or that. Okay.
Okay, great. Let's do it.
All right. NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
BSB.
Okay, good. All right. the OC or One Tree Hill?
Ooh, OC.
Okay. Real World or Road Rules?
Real World, the
yeah.
original.
Yeah. Abercrombie or American Eagle?
Abercrombie, I modeled for them.
Oh my God, amazing.
Isn't that
yeah,
funny?
I was an Abercrombie and Fitch guy too.
Cool.
Okay, last one, most important one. Britney or Christina?
I am so team Britney right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Favorite Britney song?
I would say Oops, I Did It Again. Like just, classic, like with its schoolgirl outfit.
Love it.
Wait, it's like with the dance. Look at me trying to dance. All right, we're just gonna leave that to Britney.
I love it. Amazing. Meghan, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for chatting with me. Can you tell all of my listeners where they can find you and where they can watch your recap videos?
Yeah, you guys all have to watch my recaps of the former episodes I was on in The Real Housewives of Orange County. You can catch those on YouTube. You can find them on YouTube just by searching Meghan King, or go to my Instagram, Meghan King, and you'll find the link in bio.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Meghan.
Thank you. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.